Welcome back, Defenders. Jake here. Top story from the last 2 days potentially is a sad one. Russia says Kyiv shot down a plane carrying Ukrainian prisoners of war. However, Kyiv says there's no reliable information on downed plane, as Russia claims 65 Ukrainian POWs on board the crashed IL-76. An IL-76 is a Russian military transport plane. Russia uses these planes to transport weapons. So anytime one of these planes is flying in the sky, it is a valid military target. But let's investigate Russia's claim. Here's my handy-dandy flowchart to tell if Russia is lying. Is Russia speaking? Yes. Then we know Russia's lying. If they're not speaking, they're just thinking of what they will lie, so you can double back once they open their mouths. But none of this makes any sense, what Russia is claiming. And if the Ukrainians did shoot down a plane containing their own prisoners of war, this makes Ukraine look pretty bad. So Russia would want international observers to come to the crash site, to see the bodies, to report that this in fact actually happened. But Russia's not doing this. They're not letting international observers go to the crash site or see the bodies. And we do have a video of the IL-76 crashing. As the plane was going down, a woman took out her phone and captured the crash on camera. Based on the fireball, when the plane hit the ground, it's consistent with a plane that was full of weapons. The Ukrainians are saying that this plane was transporting S-300 missiles. Kind of looks like it based on the explosion. But because we have a video of the plane going down, we can geolocate from this video the direction of the plane. So this plane took off from Belgorod and was going north-northwest. It was not going to Belgorod. It was not going towards Ukraine. Why would Russia load up this plane with prisoners of war, supposedly that were going to be transferred, and be taking them away from the Ukrainian border? We also do have pictures and videos of the crash site, and there's no bodies. You would think if this plane had over 70 people on board, between the Russian crew and the Ukrainian POWs, based on these pictures and videos, we would be seeing bodies. But based on the pictures and videos, we've only seen 2. And this is where I declare habeas corpus. If you've heard the term habeas corpus before, this in general means, in legal terms, you have to give someone justification for why you're detaining them. If a government arrests someone, they have to tell them why. But habeas corpus literally means in Latin, you should have the body. If you accuse someone of murder, there needs to be a body of someone who was murdered. And based on these pictures and videos, I've looked at them all. I don't see the corpses of 65 people. And I don't believe they were vaporized in the crash. When the Russians shot down Prigozhin's plane, we had pictures and videos right after the crash, and I saw the bodies. You couldn't identify them. They were burned and mangled, but there were still corpses laying on the ground of this crash everywhere. That's what happens when planes crash. It gets weirder. Margarita Soumignon on Twitter posted the names and birth dates of the 65 Ukrainian POWs as proof that these were the people about to be exchanged who died in the plane crash. The problem is that 17 of these names are identical, and birthdays, to Ukrainian POWs who were returned on January 3rd. So the list is wrong. Even if Russia was trying to tell the truth, they screwed up this list, and this just makes things more confusing. Next, Ukraine says it was not informed about the need to ensure safety of airspace before the plane crash in the Belgorod Oblast. We have rules under international law about how POWs should be treated, And if POWs are being transported within hostile zones, it's the responsibility of the country who has those POWs to notify the other side that they're being transported. So if there were Ukrainian POWs on this plane, the Russians never notified the Ukrainians, and this is a war crime. Russia is admitting to yet another war crime by transporting Ukrainian POWs through contested airspace without notifying Ukraine first. Story just gets weirder. The fact that there would be 65 Ukrainian POWs on this plane, yet there was only a 6-person crew and then 3 additional staff. The 6-man crew is to fly the plane. So they only had 3 security guards to handle and control 65 Ukrainian POWs. This conflicts with previous reports. This is a former Ukrainian POW who was previously exchanged last year. And he said when his group was exchanged, there were about 50 of them, and they had 20 Russian soldiers transporting them, watching them, to make sure they didn't try anything. So it doesn't make any sense for only 3 guards to be on the plane trying to control and watch 65 prisoners. Anton has a complete thread just dissecting Russia's claim and how none of it makes any sense. I'll link it down below if you want to investigate more for yourself. But either way, Zelensky says Russia is playing games with the lives of Ukrainian POWs. There was a scheduled exchange planned, potentially for today. And a possible explanation of what's going on is Ukraine used a Patriot launcher to shoot down this Russian plane, and Russia's just mad. They're mad they lost another plane, so they're canceling the POW exchange that was supposed to take place. They don't want their own guys back. And to just make it more interesting, they're saying that all these Ukrainian POWs were on board that plane that Ukraine shot down. The scary thought is Russia might now have to execute these Ukrainian POWs to make their story consistent. If these guys show up alive in the future after Russia says they were killed in this plane crash, well then obviously we know Russia was lying. It's just another tragedy, it's just another war crime. Russia remains the worst. But what we are learning that is true is the identity of the Russian crew of this plane. There's the pilots, the navigator, and the onboard engineers. And Russia's trying to spin this that these men are heroes for being shot down, simply trying to transport Ukrainian prisoners of war. When in reality, all of these officers, these Russian pilots, they're all war criminals. They've been flying these planes for almost 2 years now, knowing where these weapons are coming from and where these weapons are going. All of these men deserve to stand trial for their war crimes when this war was over. But now they're dead. The other top story is that Ukraine continues going after Russia's oil depots. Another Russian oil refinery set afire as Ukraine's long-range drone bombardment intensifies. There's lots of videos online of these oil and gas fires at Russia's terminals. And this is happening in the Russian town of Tuapse. This is on the Black Sea. Here's where it's located, and Novorossiysk is just a little bit north on the coastline. The oil depot there has also been targeted in the past. So here's a map that explains it really well. Russia's oil and gas reserves are located in Siberia, east of the Ural Mountains. And through a series of pipes, this is how they got all of their oil and gas to European markets. And the EU has been doing a good job trying to get off their dependency of Russian oil and gas. But it's been 2 years. It's time to cut the cord. If Russia can no longer pipe their oil and gas to European customers, then they've got to take it to either the Baltic Sea or the Black Sea, put it on ships, and ship it to whoever wants to buy it. So we've got to destroy these access terminals. This is what Ukraine is thinking. Now the question you might have is, why hasn't Ukraine already done this? And I do think it's about timing and about price. When we look at what is the global price for natural gas currently, more or less it's at a 2-year low. So if Russia's ability to export diminishes, and it will, then the price of natural gas globally is going to increase. This is not something that consumers in Western markets are going to be happy about, but this is war. And if Ukraine wants to defeat Russia, they have to go after their export revenue. Here's the price of ICE Brent crude, currently at $81 a barrel. Sure, it's been lower during COVID, but this is a price that Ukraine is feeling comfortable now hitting Russia's ability to export. I also think Ukraine potentially was waiting to get halfway through winter so that if Russia's ability to export oil and gas wouldn't affect people's ability to stay warm this winter. But it's only going to get worse. As we go into year 3 of this war, Ukraine doesn't care anymore what the West thinks about the price of oil and gas for their people in their countries. They're facing genocide. They're facing annihilation. These oil depots and refineries have to go offline in order for Russia to realize they're never going to win this war. Let's check in with Russia's presidential elections. And if you remember, this woman, Ekaterina Dontsova, a genuine anti-war candidate, was kept off the ballots. But there is a Russian who Russians can vote for, who's openly campaigning now as anti-war, anti-Putin, and he wants to see change in Russia. This doesn't seem like it should be possible, but his name is Boris Netizin, Hope for Change, or Kremlin spoiler, the presidential hopeful uniting pro-peace Russians. So this woman, Dontsova, has endorsed Boris. And I just want to mention him because I do think he's going to get a lot of Western media attention over the next 2 months. But is he legitimate? And I'm going to refer you to a Russian who knows more about him than I do, Roman over at NFKRZ. He made a video 4 days ago talking about Boris. I'll link this down below if you want to see Roman's perspective. Even though he's Russian, I do value his perspective as a Russian citizen who fled Russia to avoid participating in this war. So the question everyone has is this guy legit or not? Russian election candidate calls Ukraine war a big mistake by Putin. And Dmitry over at War Translated, he's Estonian, he doesn't buy it. He thinks that the Kremlin wanted Boris to be on the ballot in order to give people who want to vote against the war a feeling like this is a legitimate election. When in reality, this election in March is going to be a joke. Russia is switching to all electronic voting, so when you go into the voting booth, it doesn't matter where you touch on the screen. Putin is going to get your votes. So when the vote finally comes out, Boris is probably going to get 1.5% officially. This allows Putin to say that 98.5% of Russians support him and support this war. Just the way it is. I can show you a clip on Russian Media Monitor. Boris was asked what his goals for his presidential run are, and he said, you know, I hope that the conclusion of this electoral campaign, I will stay alive, remain free, and won't be declared a foreign agent. So of course he never would have been allowed to run unless the Kremlin wanted him to run. Let's get a weather update, and this time I want to show you Russia's Far East. Currently it's -8 degrees Celsius in Vladivostok. And Vladivostok, used to be part of China, has about 600,000 residents. And the city is currently without power. Electrical substations have malfunctioned in Vladivostok, resulting in blackouts covering about half the city. And of course, it's not just the electricity that's gone out. Central heating pipes have also ruptured in Vladivostok, causing water to spill into the streets.
У нас, короче, что-то тут беда случилась, смотри, кипяток льется на. Пиздец, интересно, что
So what do you do when you don't have heat? How do you get electric components to function properly? And here's a bus driver trying to defrost the door opening mechanism on this bus in Vladivostok.
Блядь, это цирк вообще, это что такое?
Yeah, for the life of me, I can't understand why everything in Russia keeps breaking when their people are this ingenious. Let's now talk about US politics, and I'm sorry. As an American, to my international audience, I apologize, but we are failing you. Pentagon has no more money for Ukraine, as it hosts a meeting of 50 allies on support for Kyiv. Senators are racing to win support for a border deal as aid to Ukraine hangs in the balance. This was the week. Republican Senator Mitch McConnell was supposed to release the details of this border security and Ukraine aid package, and the bill hasn't been released. I haven't seen the details. It's been negotiated in secrecy for 2 months now. There's supposed to be components of immigration reform, as well as real tough border security measures, in addition to military aid for Taiwan, Israel, and Ukraine. And I think this thing is dead. This thing is dead because Donald Trump wants it dead. Trump privately pressuring GOP senators to kill the border deal to deny Biden a win. So here is Republican Senator Mitt Romney responding to the fact that Donald Trump is calling Republican senators and telling them, don't support this, don't vote for this, I want this killed.
Oh, I think the border is a very important issue for Donald Trump, and the fact that he would communicate to Republican senators and congresspeople that he doesn't want us to solve the border problem because he wants to blame Biden for it is really appalling. But the reality is that we have a crisis at the border. The American people are suffering as a result of what's happening at the border, and someone running for president ought to try and get the problem solved, as opposed to saying, "Hey, save that problem. Don't solve it. Let me take credit for solving it later."
So Donald Trump doesn't want to secure the border now. He wants to campaign on this for the next 9 months, be reelected in November, and then fix it himself in January. This is immoral. If you believe that Americans are dying because drugs are getting across the border and criminals are getting across the border, then to deliberately do nothing when Biden and the Democrats are offering a deal, increase border security for some minor reforms to immigration, and you're saying, no, we don't want it. We want to do nothing for the next year. And let's put a face on this. This is in the news today. Pawn Stars Rick Harrison's son overdosed on fentanyl. He blames the border crisis. If you're an international, you might not know of this show called Pawn Stars. It's on the History Channel. It's been on television for like 12 or 13 years. And originally the cast was the grandfather, the son, and the grandson. The grandfather passed away, I think, like 7 or 8 years ago. But now the grandson is dead. He died of a fentanyl overdose 2 days ago. So we have Americans dying because drugs are getting across the border. And Biden and the Democrats want to do something. They want to increase funding for more border security and pair it with military aid for Ukraine. And Donald Trump is calling Republican senators and obviously speaking to Speaker Johnson, telling him to do nothing. Keep letting Americans die for the next 9 months, so that it'll be easier for me to be re-elected president. If I'm spinning this incorrectly, if this is not the true narrative, tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where I'm wrong. And this is unfortunate. We just had the New Hampshire primary. I was hoping Nikki Haley could win this state, but she didn't. And I think it's inevitable Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee. And once he has that title of the Republican nominee, Republicans in Congress are just going to fall in line behind him. Donald Trump does not support Ukraine, let's just be honest. Donald Trump doesn't support NATO. Donald Trump hates Europe. Donald Trump feels the most comfortable with other dictators. President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea. Donald Trump has only ever said nice things about Vladimir Putin and Russia. So we've got an election in 284 days, and the Europeans and Ukraine have to hold on. They have to survive the next 284 days. Democracy is on the ballot here in the United States. Donald Trump must be defeated in order for Ukraine to continue receiving military aid. I wish this wasn't true. I wish that here in America we only have 2 political parties to choose from. It's not great options. And one of them is controlled by someone who really likes dictators, and for whatever reason wants to see Russia win this war. This is the sobering reality. But there is good news. There's always good news. Keep the faith. The Turkish parliament has approved Sweden's accession to NATO, so the only person remaining is Viktor Orban of Hungary, and he's claiming at the moment he's not going to block Sweden's membership to NATO. We've also got this report from Fico of Slovakia that when the EU debates on February 1st the 50 billion euro assistance to Ukraine, he's saying he's not going to vote against it. He's going to allow it to happen, so thank you. God bless the Brits. The UK will support Ukraine for as long as it takes, saying they're going to raise their military aid to Ukraine this year to £2.5 billion. Thank you so much, all of you amazing Brits out there. And this is a genius idea. This narrative has been going on for months. Germany is reluctant to give their Taurus cruise missiles to Ukraine. So what the British are proposing is sell us your Taurus cruise missiles. Transfer German Taurus cruise missiles to the UK. This will allow the UK to keep a certain reserve in their own military inventory, and the UK can then send more Storm Shadows to Ukraine directly. We didn't have to do it this way, but if this makes Germany feel more comfortable, this is a brilliant solution. Germany is currently considering it. Denmark will allocate $13 million for projects to develop cybersecurity systems for Ukraine. Thank you so much, Denmark. Final feel-good clip is a cat asking very politely to this Ukrainian defender if he can warm up in his jacket.
Мыши, да, пахнут мыши, а? Все?
Ваш кіт буде з вами жити.
That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth.